Good morning, Epic Life fam. Excuse my southern accent. So I just wanted to share this really profound moment with you guys because you guys have long been a part of my journey, a long part of my process, and I just feel like you really are family to me. So I feel like you guys deserve to know what's going on. So let's backtrack 24 hours ago. My daughter got a real paranormal app so you can communicate with the other side. What was to come just really threw me off. I had the really wild idea of trying to get a hold of my children that were miscarried. They go by the name of Zoe and Jacob. And why is it getting hard to talk about? So, I was sitting in this very spot when I originally got contact with my daughter that I had miscarried shortly after I had my oldest daughter. Both of them were from 2010. And Zoe passed away a couple of days after I had my daughter. And basically, I had a really traumatic miscarriage during that experience. I just remember getting home in my ugly Toyota Camry car that was diarrhea green. Sorry, I didn't mean to be funny. But I'll never forget that day because it was so traumatic. That when we arrived home, my pants were just bloody, and it was to a point that I was getting blood on the sidewalk. And all my neighbors I don't think they understood really what was going on. I think they thought that I was probably being murdered or whatever. And which wouldn't really make sense because if you were murdered, you're not alive, right? And so I was just a bloodbath. And I just remember the sensation of my pants feeling incredibly heavy. And it was the year that I lost her that I was just devastated with my husband. We just were so down and out, strung out. We didn't know what to do. We felt hopeless. And back in 2014, I miscarried my son Jacob in December. It was December 17th to be exact. And when I lost him, I couldn't leave the bathroom. So let me give you an example. So with Zoe, I was just a bloodbath. It looked like a scene from a horror movie, like it was as if someone had tried to kill me. And I just went to the bathroom, got out of my nasty clothes, and by the time I hit the bathroom, everything was all done. It was actually really prompt. And this time around, when I had miscarried my son Jacob, it was very different. I was living in California at the time that this happened. And I was bathroom bound, sadly, and I just couldn't leave. I would pass the remains of my son, and I would try to go lay down, but I would get this trickling sensation as if I were going to bleed out more and pass more, probably parts of his body out. And I just stayed in the bathroom, and I just couldn't leave. And honestly, you guys, the honest God-given truth is that miscarriage labor is more intense than actual childbirth when the baby is alive. I don't know why this is. I just know that it was very traumatic. And I miss my kids. And then last night my daughter got this real ghost meter app where you can actually talk to them. You can see where the levels are differentiating on an EVP portion of the app. It's real ghost meter. And honestly, I was just gonna try to communicate and find out what had scared my son last night, the one that I'm holding, because at one point I was so angry and so stressed out that I went upstairs because my ulcers got big and swollen and my stomach was hurting, so I went to use the restroom. It was at that point that, and what I don't understand is that my son that I'm holding was sound asleep. I set him on the bed. He seemed peaceful during that time. And when I was close to, washing my hands and all that, I just heard a very horrified cry. And honest to God, I have never heard my son cry like that ever, which was a clear indication that something had the intent to scare him. That then drove me in a downward spiral. I was pissed off by it, and that's why I got the meter. I wanted answers, just like any other parent who wants to know when these things happen. A lot of parents make the misperception that they're hopeless and that there's nothing that they can do. And actually, there is. You can get on these apps. You can find out what is, tormenting your child or you or your family at large. Even animals are sensitive to it, so it affects everybody. And that was my intent, honestly. And I ended up somehow being able to communicate with my daughter Zoe and my son Jacob that had passed away a number of years ago. And I found out that my daughter is 7 and my son was 5. And I just got that closure, that closure that, typically you don't really get after somebody dies. And not a lot of people honestly know how to talk with entities or ghosts. Now, I'll also tell you that there's demons that pose to be things that they're not, and there are the real thing. And it's very difficult to differentiate, being that they pretend and things like that. But I've studied the paranormal for over 33 years, and I just know, you know what I mean? And, the most critical thing I can say is that you pray before you start trying to communicate with a loved one. It is possible, it is real, but you have to be with an educated paranormal researcher, because otherwise they're probably going to mislead you and misguide you. Like these clairvoyant people who say things, but they're not really real. It's just word of mouth and not factual scientific things. But anyways, guys, it was a very emotional night for my husband and me, honestly, because for so many years I had felt lost, and I felt like they were angry at me because I had my sons. And last night, I talked to her so much that it was almost honestly to a point that I didn't even want to stop. But it was 1 in the morning when I told her to go get some rest. And what was to happen next, I would have never expected. I told her to go with Jacob and to find a spot and lay down. That I understood that heaven is a beautiful place. And, at that point, before I, closed the app, she was asking to talk to her sisters and brothers. And, I let her talk to my oldest daughter because my other daughter was asleep. And, what really got to me was that she wanted to know all about the kids. She was curious. And she came to me in a dream. She's chubby. She looked like she had the skin color of my daughter Isabella, but the hair color of my older daughter, which is black. And she's chubby, just really adorable. And I didn't want to stop, but I gave the phone to my daughter to talk with her sister that was departed. And one of the things that she was saying was, how was Emma, how was Zeke, how was Bella. She even asked about my new son. And at the very, very end, she was telling my older daughter to watch out for me. And I can't understand why she would say something like that. But clearly Zoe knows something that I'm unaware of. She must see the way I am. She must just know my heart. She knows the things that I go through, and perhaps that's probably why she's saying the things that she's saying. It's absolutely shocking. And I hope that, later on, I can get in contact with her again. But we spoke for so long because I hadn't tried anything for years because I was so devastated. And I was hurt, and I felt this void, like I never got to hold you in my arms. And it just destroyed me. And then I had him. And this guy right here. And I started to feel worried. I felt antsy. I was like, do they resent me for having them? And in the end, I just found out last night that she's happy. She has brothers now. She had another brother, but he also passed away, so he's over there with her. And it just was an incredible night. And, I'm so grateful to God that I am an educated paranormal researcher, because without that, I would not have known how to get a hold of her. And, I just prayed for like an hour and a half, just a couple, 30 minutes ago. And, now things are okay. But anyways, Epic Life fam, I gotta go because I gotta finish feeding the little one. And I gotta go watch the other ones that went up there. So, I love you guys. Bye.